Hey everybody, welcome back to the Excellecore Real Estate channel. My name is Jeremy Rickard. I'm the broker of Excellecore Real Estate right here in sunny Central Florida. Great to have you back. And I think by the end of this video, you're gonna be a little bit smarter. I hope that you'll be a little bit smarter than you were coming into this one. But I get this question often. Is the market gonna crash? Are we in a real estate bubble? And I want to address just a couple things to get you to think. And at least for Florida markets, Florida areas, some things maybe you haven't considered about this particular market. But one of the things we need to be really aware of pretty much at all times are the supply and the demand of homes. I mean, it's just a very basic economic principle. The more demand that you have and the less supply you have pretty much of anything, generally speaking, prices are going to go up. But one thing I don't think enough people have been talking about when we're talking about this particular real estate market is generations and who is actually buying houses right now. This is going to help you to understand what in the world is going on. Why is there such a frenzy? Now, there's all kinds of reasons and things that are like pressures that are being put on the market from different angles. And at any given time, those pressures can either become more intense or less intense, causing local markets to give, flex, breathe, cycle, correct. I mean, you can use all kinds of words to describe those markets. But I want to talk to you a little bit more focused on generations. So I've drawn a little chart here to show generations over time, and it's just in its basic form. I want to talk about this first little hump right here, and we're going to label this little hump the Boomers generation. Okay, this would have been my parents' generation, those people that are generally coming up on retirement. Now, my generation right here was Generation X. And the reason that I had this like this is we had more people in the Boomer generation than we did in Generation X, okay? The next generation to come up here would be the Millennial generation. Millennial, spell right. And then down here, Gen Z. Now, you'll notice that the millennial bump here is a little bit higher than the boomers bump. And in fact, in 2019, the sheer population of the millennials overtook the number of population that were in the boomer generation. So the millennial generation is the largest generation that the U.S. has ever seen in terms of sheer population. And then Generation X was less than both of them. Now, why is that important? Well, when we start looking at the first market downturn that we experienced in my lifetime, which was in 2008, where we had a real, well, some people consider a crash or a bubble to burst or whatever, it happened right here when Generation X was at buying age. Now, the reason I drew this line right through the middle, we'll consider this line the rate at which houses are being built. Okay, so these are the number of houses that are being built. So you could see that during the time of the boomers, maybe less homes were built than what were needed. But then once we come over here to Generation X, we've got more homes that have been built than what's needed for the people that are actually buying them. What happens when we get to the millennial situation over here? When we get to the millennial generation, there are not enough homes. So the supply for the demand on this group that is now buying, the millennial generation, or a buying age, the supply doesn't satisfy the demand. But there's one more thing we need to consider. So obviously nobody saw COVID coming and the impact that it had. However, the boomers are coming of retirement age. And what happened was it exacerbated the time or the speed at which the boomers were actually going to retire. They have a name for it. The name was the Great Resignation. So basically, we have a boomer generation that says, you know what? I think I'm tired of working. This COVID-19 thing's got me at home. I don't really need to go back to work. I've got a stockpile of cash. I'm just going to call it a day for being in a job, cash in my chips, and let's just live the retired life. Well, that was hurried up by COVID. How do I know that? Between 2008 and 2019, retirees were retiring at a rate of 1 million retirees per year. 2020 to 2021, that number swelled to 3.5 million. So the question became, where is all this cash coming from? I have that from a lot of customers, a lot of clients that their offers are getting beat out by cash. They're like, where is this cash coming from? How do these people have so much cash? Well, if you consider that the boomers have had a lifetime to collect cash, invest, make really good financial decisions, and now it's just time they're cashing out. What happens is it creates a wave, actually a second wave. We've got the first wave of millennials that are buying up here that are creating an extreme demand on the market. What this does, when the boomers come over and now they're buying early, it creates an exaggerated wave. So now we have two of the largest generations that have ever been in the history of the United States buying at one time now, or potentially relocating. So if we've got boomers that are relocating, what is one of the greatest places to relocate to? Florida. What is one of the freest states throughout all of this COVID pandemic? Florida. What state has some of the most lenient taxes on homes? Florida. So people are swelling here to the state. So the demand for homes is going way up more than what it probably typically would had we not experienced COVID and had we not been at the top of the millennial generation being ready to buy at this time. So the question becomes, is there going to be a market crash? Is there going to be a correction? Well, eventually there probably will be when the demand and the supply come more in line. What's been happening over the course of the past decade is the birth rate has also been going down. And it's just been till recently in the past couple of years that the birth rate has kind of leveled off. But when the birth rate goes down, it means there's going to be less people ready to buy here. So when the Gen Z come of age to buy, there's less of them than there are of the millennials. So now there's all these properties that are being created for millennial generation. There'll be less of them for Gen Z to purchase. So if you have low demand and a high supply, prices have to come down. That's not necessarily a crash, it's just cycles. So what I wanted to kind of portray here at the end is the difference between what was going on in 2008 when the market did crash versus what's going on in 2022. So in 2008, the supply of homes was high based on the demand. 2022, the supply is low based on the demand, but growing. The supply is growing. We're building more. There's more building permits that are happening. The supply is growing, but it's still not meeting the demand. Why? Again, millennials, boomers, and Gen X, all of them buying at one time. Lending in 2008. Lending in 2008 was easy. It was very easy to get a loan. You didn't even have to really prove your income sometimes, as long as you had a good enough credit score. Reverse amortization mortgages, negative amortization mortgages, interest-only mortgages, teaser rates, all those kind of things. Easy to get a loan. 2022, it's tight. Anybody that's been in the industry right now, especially if you're self-employed, will tell you it is not the easiest process to get a loan right now. That actually is a good thing, because then those that do get a loan have went through a process that will ensure that loan, the probability that loan will be satisfied is great. Next thing, cash equity. Right now in our area, in the Wesley Chapel area, over the past 30 days, roughly 39% of the properties that were purchased with cash. And almost 50% of those homes were purchased with conventional loans. Now, why is that important? Conventional loans require the minimum of 5% down. Most of these loans are going with 20% down or more, and a lot of these offers are having people pay over the appraised value of the property to get in. So they're covering the negative equity, and they're putting down great equity, or they're paying cash for the home, which means they own it outright. They've got plenty of equity. So cash equity in 2022 is high. Cash equity back in 2008 because lending was so easy. You didn't have to put any money down on some of these loans. You put the minimum down. FHA loans were 3.5% down. So cash and equity were low. So what happened when there was a little bit of a cycle downturn in the market? It was not easy for those people to sell. They had no equity to sell. Sometimes it got flipped, turned upside down. We had to start getting into short sales, those type of things. That is not the situation we have in 22 and 22. It's of my opinion that I don't think anybody should be foreclosed on right now, not because a bank shouldn't have the right to foreclose, but if a person is that far along, have missed their payments that long, they should go ahead and sell. You're going to make money in this current market. Sell, don't have a foreclosure on your credit, and pocket that extra cash. And then lastly, let's talk about true need in 2008 versus the true need in 2022. What do I mean when I say true need? True need is a family or an individual that absolutely needs shelter for themselves or their families. Not a second home or an investment property or a fifth investment property or 10th investment property, but true need. In 2008, there was a ton of investment buyers that were in the market. Now, what did that do? It artificially manipulated the market to show that it seemed like the demand was not, or the demand was more than the supply, but that wasn't the case. The true need, people actually needing homes to live in, was actually low. Well, think about it. If you're an investor with 5 or 6 properties and all of a sudden the market takes a turn, what are you going to do? You're going to get rid of those. So what that does, it floods the market with supply that was artificial in the first place, because if it were a family needing to be in there, it might be a different story. You as an individual are more apt to do what you can do to hold on to your homes than you would if you were going to hold on to home 3, 4, and 5. In 2022, the true need for homes, meaning people that need to live in them, is extremely high. Again, let's go back. What's happening here? Millennials here needing their first home. Some even Gen X are buying their first home. And then when you have people that are relocating and coming into, say, Florida, for instance, they're needing an actual physical home to go to. And so the true need is high. So the least I could say would be that 2022 and 2008 are just different. We're not in the same markets. It's not under the same conditions. Side note, one of the things that can change the supply and demand situation interest rates. And for a long time, interest rates have been exceptionally low. And here as of recent, we're starting to get really close to a 4% interest rate. Historically, that is still really low. The problem is that the prices are so much higher than they were back when the interest rates were higher. So as prices rise and interest rates rise together, your money's actually going to buy less. Now, what effect is that going to have? Could it potentially price people out of the market? Meaning they don't have the ability to now afford a home at the current prices, at the current interest rates. That could happen. If that starts to happen, the demand will pull back a little bit. As the demand pulls back, the supply will have a chance to catch up. I service Land O'Lakes, Lutz, New Tampa, and Wesley Chapel. And in our markets right now, generally across the board, we have about a 2.5 to 3 month supply, give or take, depending upon the city. That is very low. A balanced market is around 6 months supply. So we're about half or less of that. So once we get back to that balanced area, you'll see prices kind of regulate a little bit. But as of right now, we've got extremely high demand and very low supply. And so, like I said, there are some other things in the market that could put pressures, meaning the availability of money, the supply chain issues. There's all kinds of things that push and pull on a market. But as of right now, I do not see any kind of bubble popping or prices going down or market correction or adjustment for a lengthy period of time. Again, there's going to come a time where things will cycle and there will be less people looking for properties than there actually are properties available. So At that point, the prices will probably either regulate a little bit or come down some, but over the course of history, prices have always tended to go up. So in the midst of each year, there might be some fluctuation, but generally speaking, over the course of time, prices continue to go up. What does that mean for you at the end? If you're looking to buy a house, I am highly encouraging you to find a professional. If you're in our area, I would love to help you find your next home. I know a lot of our agents at Excellecore Real Estate would love to help you find your next home, but find a professional that can advocate for you. This is a very intense market. You need to know how to set up your offers to win that house that you're really wanting to look for. You need to know when to call it quits, when to not offer any more. People are bidding way over list price sometimes and doing some wild things and crazy things to be able to get into a house. But you need a guide, you need an advocate on your side, even if you're buying new construction. And I would even say, especially if you're buying new construction home, please. Our agents don't charge you anything, or our agents at Excellecore don't charge you anything in order to give you our services. We're reimbursed by the sellers. So let us advocate for you on your behalf. And then if you're looking to sell a home, man, we have some great guarantees. You're gonna get full market value. You're gonna put the most money back in your pocket. And I promise you, my guarantee is I will get you full market value backed up by an appraisal, or I'll pay the difference myself. So keep that in mind. It's my guarantee to you. If you are looking for a house, or you wanna sell a house, you wanna know what your house is worth, go check us out at excellecorerealestate.com. I'll put the link down below. If you would, share this video with those who you think might be helped by it. I want to help people. Again, we won't want anybody making a decision out of fear. I want you to be as educated as possible, and I want to be your guide along the way. So I appreciate you taking the time to listen and hang in there with us, and keep coming back to excellecorerealestate.com and Excellecore Real Estate TV, our YouTube channel, our Instagram, Facebook, for more information. Stay with us. We're going to walk through this together. Thanks so much.